Hi everyone, welcome to this tutorial on Happy Again by Chet Atkins. While the top tier patrons roll by, a quick reminder that only the first part of the tutorial will be released on YouTube. For full access, please head over to my Patreon page. We are currently also working on my own website, so in a few weeks that link will be in the description too, alongside the link to music notes where you can get the tab and notation file. Happy Again is, as the title implies, an unusually happy and carefree tune by Chet Atkins. The reason for that uplifting news isn't too difficult to understand. Chet Atkins fought different forms of cancer throughout his life, and one day he had to drop by the doctor's office for his latest results, and he got a clean bill of health. So Chet went home and wrote this bright and optimistic tune. As far as the tune goes, there's good news. This isn't Chet's hardest song. I start off with a more or less basic version, and I'm adding more and more Tommy Emmanuel variations to the song as we progress. Chet's original sounds fine, but Tommy adds 50 years of musical progress to the tune, which is probably why it fits our modern expectations a bit better. That is all the background for today. Let's dive straight in. Alright, straight to playing then. The guitar is in standard tuning and all you need is a thumb pick, although I guess, especially if you stick to the more basic version, it's perfectly possible to play this one without a thumb pick as well. There is no intro, so we dive straight into the first verse. Let's have a listen, already a little bit below concert speed. Such a happy melody. It's not something that you come across too often in the guitar playing genre altogether, but it's so much fun to play. Let's have a quick look. So you start with a spicy chord, not in technical ability, but in sound. An E augmented chord, open E string, open D string, index finger, first fret on the G string, middle finger, first fret on the B string, and then ring finger, pinky, whatever you want, on the second fret on the high E string, giving you an E augmented dominant ninth chord. And we sort of spread this out, first the bass note and then thumb pick, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, sort of rolling over the chord to set up the song. Then we head into an A chord. We use Tommy Emmanuel's fingering, which is sort of a variation on a standard A chord. We're going to swap around the middle finger and the index finger. So you get open A string, second fret D string with the middle finger, second fret G string with the index finger, second fret B string with the ring finger, and you're going to need an open E string on top as well. This is the first bar. Okay, so you start out open A string together with an open E string on top, then D string and B string together, then releasing the ring finger, so you get an open B string together with the low E string, and then as you head back with the thumb pick to the D string, you drop down the ring finger again on the second fret, and you drop down the index finger to the first fret, giving you an A major seventh chord. So really slow, that first bar. And back to the open A string. That's the first bar, together with that E chord in front of that. Second bar starts with that major seventh voicing carrying across the bar line. Then just an open A string, you're muting in this hand of course, open A string, and then again together D string together with an open E string on top. Low E string, and then in between the bass string on the low E string and the D string, you play an open E string on top. 1, 2, 3. And as you head for the D string with the thumb pick, you're going to hammer on to the second fret with the ring finger. If you play this up to speed, you're still trying to make these chord tones ring out, so don't release anything, keep it down as long as possible. So just that second bar. See, and as you hammer on to the second fret, you aim for the exact same timing as you land the bass note on the D string. That's what you get. First two bars with the intro chord. Open E string, open A string, and then we're going to move to an A6th or an A6/9 voicing. Open A string, ring finger 4th fret on the D string, pinky 4th fret on the G string, index finger 2nd fret on the B string, giving you an A major chord with both the 6th degree and the 9th degree in the chord. Picking pattern. So just that third bar is again open E string, open A string together. Then as you drop down the chord shape, D string and B string together. And then in between the bass note on the D string, the bass note on the low E string, you're going to pick with the index finger that 4th fret on the G string. And as you head back to the D string with the thumb pick, you re-pick 2nd fret on the B string. You're just holding down the chord shape, nothing moves in the left hand. And back to an open A string. Now we're going to start a move up across the neck, and this is maybe the trickiest section of the verse because you have to navigate the neck quite rapidly. So we have that chord shape. You drop down the middle finger, so you have this chord shape. Index finger, ring finger, pinky, you drop down the middle finger on the 3rd fret, giving you a sort of a B minor triad in there without using the bar. And we're going to move that up 2 frets. Then we're going to move that up to the 7th fret, and we're going to switch to a bar with the index finger. So just really slowly, this is how it looks. You have that chord ringing across the bar line, open A bass string, then D string, bass note together with the G string and B string. You move up E string, bass note, and you just keep playing, only keep playing the G string and B string. So D string, bass note, E string, bass note, D string, bass note. So the bass note goes, and you are fretting that 6th fret here. You're never actually playing that. It's just that we can keep the same chord shape just in triads moving across the neck. So just that last bar. And we're going to connect this to the next section right away. Just to make it perfectly clear, coming from that last chord, drop down the middle finger and you have the chord shape you need. The index finger is completely open here. And you're going to end up on the 9th fret with an open A bass string. And in the next section, you just keep alternating. A string, D string, E string, D string, never changes. And we're going to keep playing around with those triad forms. You're always going to fret 3 strings in the left hand, but every once in a while you're not going to play that note on the D string. That's fine. So just stick to 3 strings all the way through. Ending up on the 9th fret, bar with the index finger. And then we're going to add the exact same chord shape again. Ring finger, pinky, middle finger on the 11th and 10th fret, just basically the exact same chord shape again. And we're going to keep alternating through the bass line. As we move to the low E string, you just remove the chord shape again, only leaving us with the index finger bar. and then we drop back down to the 7th fret. And we carry that chord shape across the bar line again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and just the bass note on the first beat of the next bar. Then we're going to drop a bar with the ring finger on the 9th fret, basically just revisiting the previous chord. Don't switch around with the index finger. It's probably going to be too much jumping around. We try to limit our moves now downward on the neck, and whenever we have to move back up, we're going to try and use another finger. So again, that first bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, bass note, and heading back to the 9th fret, dropping down the ring finger across 3 strings again, together with the bass note on the D string, back to the low E string, and we just remove that bar again, back to the index finger, and then as we head to the D string, we head back for our other chord shape, ring finger 6th fret on the D string, pinky 6th fret on the G string, and middle finger 5th fret on the B string. And we're going to drop this down straight away back to open position again. Before we do that, let's add all of those moving triad shapes together. First, starting on the 9th fret. And you're going to move down as you play that open A bass string. That's what you're going to end up with, just an A added 9th chord down here, open A string, index finger, 2nd fret on the D string, pinky, 4th fret on the G string, middle finger, 2nd fret on the B string. And we're going to hammer on with the ring finger to the 3rd fret in just a second. Rhythm here is just again together with the bass notes, open A bass string, nothing else above that. You're still sliding down from that previous chord. And just 3 times the chord together with the D string, E string, and D string bass note. And when Tommy Emmanuel plays this, he makes a habit of muting in between each chord. So you get... And then we move to the hammer-on. This is also the reason why you can't use a bar for that chord, because you need the open E string as well. So the last bar of that section is just A string, then B string together with the bass note on the D string, hammering on to the 3rd fret. Bass note on the low E string, and then an open E string on top. And we round it out with just a bass note on the D string. Only that last bar. Those last 2 bars. And then we're going to move into slightly more sophisticated chords, but not that much more difficult to play in the left hand. Before we do that, those last 4 bars, starting on the 9th fret. Before we head into the next section, a full recap of those first 8 bars. We're already halfway the verse. Intro chord, and then sound a little bit disconnected at this lower pace. It will be fine once you speed it up, no worries. Then we move into the second section, and these chords are a little bit more sophisticated. So we ended up on that A added 9th chord. Bit of a finger twister here, and G dominant 7th chord with a flat 5 in there. So ring finger, 3rd fret on the low E string, pinky, 3rd fret on the D string, index finger, 2nd fret on the G string, and then B string. We're going to start in most cases open and hammer on with the middle finger to the 2nd fret straight away. Like that. If that is too tricky, then just play the full chord straight away. And this is the easiest version. Again, we're sticking to mostly timing on the bass notes. We play the G and B string together with that hammer on the low E bass note. 1, 2, just the D bass string by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just all on the bass notes. The only thing that happens is on those last 2 chords, we just remove the middle finger again, giving an open B string that sort of rubs shoulders with that 2nd fret on the G string. Then we're going to hammer on again. So we stick to the same chord shape in the next bar. The only thing that happens is 1 bass note, then open B string, and as we head for the D string, again we're going to try and time that hammer on at the exact same spot. That's what you're going for. If that is tricky in the beginning, then loop it. 3, 4. Just nothing but that until you can get that timing exactly right. And then you add the last 2 notes, again on the bass note. Low E string, high E string, and then D string and B string at the same time. That's the 2nd bar. Those 2 bars together, all on the G dominant chord. Now we're going to do roughly the same thing. If possible, if you can manage, then you're now going to go with the thumb over the side of the neck on the 2nd fret on the low E string, and you're going to play the exact same thing. At least the exact same thing in the 1st bar. So with the thumb over the side of the neck, 2nd fret, and an open D bass string. If you can't manage that 2nd fret with the thumb, then you're going to have to switch around really quickly from this chord to something like that. Index finger, middle finger, ring finger. But if possible, give it a try. This is one of the more manageable chords with the thumb over the side of the neck. You only need the index finger and middle finger. The thumb over the side of the neck on the 2nd fret is by far the most efficient option. See, everything else is exactly the same. Now the 2nd bar is pretty easy. It's just bass note, open D string, and then most of the time I just play G string and B string together. But basically you're just playing an arpeggio of the chord tones you're holding down here. Doesn't really matter which order or how you like to fill that in, as long as you end up on an open E bass string on the 4th beat. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 4th beat, low E string. Those 2 bars together, I'm going to stick to the thumb for the rest of the tutorial. So 1, 2, 3, 4, low open E string before the next beat. Now we're going to move up the neck. Before I do that, let me play those last 4 bars one more time all the way through, starting on the G dominant chord. 3, 4. As you can see, I'm already letting go of the muting in that final section, in that final bar, because that next part that we're going to play is going to be all open strings, no left hand muting. Moving up, all the way up the neck, up to the 10th fret, pinky 10th fret on the high E string, index finger 7th fret on the B string. Normally that low E string still rings out. And now the next picking pattern might be a bit tricky, in the picking hand that is. Pick the first two notes with the index finger and middle finger. And now we're going to move down the pinky to the 9th fret. The index finger is going to stick to the 7th fret all the way through the next section. And we're going to drop the ring finger on the 9th fret on the G string. So we're going to play B string and E string with the index finger, middle finger, and then we're going to play the G string and E string with the thumb pick and the middle finger. So basically the thumb pick always for the G string, the index finger always for the B string, the middle finger always for the high E string. So we're not going to be jumping around in the picking hand. Why is that so important here? Because you're going to have to do this move a few times back to back. So this is with the low E bass string ringing out from the previous bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, always the same move. And that is by far the easiest if you stick to this picking pattern. Index finger, middle finger to the thumb pick and the middle finger. Always those two same chord shapes. The timing here is slightly different. In each version that you hear, especially Tommy Emmanuel play it in, that bass note where it lands, sometimes it's on the 3rd beat, sometimes it's on the 4th beat. You can play around with that. This is what I will stick most of the time to. So open A bass string, rings across the bar line. That's what I'm usually going to play. So bass note on the 4th beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then as that bass line rings out, we shift that whole 6th interval, ring finger pinky to the 7th fret. We're going to add the middle finger on the 6th fret on the B string and the index finger on the 5th fret on the high E string. Pulling off from the pinky, sort of rolling through the chord, pulling off to the 5th fret, dropping down the pinky straight away on the 7th fret on the B string, and then removing the index finger for an open E string. And then we move back to our opening chord. And again, lots of variations on this one. Sometimes you get the same chord with an open E string and then adding the 2nd fret on top of that. Sometimes they add the 2nd fret, but they land on the B string as the top note first and then add the high E string afterwards. You can again play around with this as much as you like. Those last 4 bars. First the open E bass string. And you land back on the 1st chord, and congratulations, you know the whole verse. The rest of the song, all of the verses are mostly repeats with a few very, very minor variations in there. Let me play those last 4 bars one more time. Back to the opening chord. Those last 8 bars one more time. And back to the 1st chord. That was the 2nd half of the verse, and you know the whole thing by now. Let me play one more time through the entire 1st verse really slowly, and then you'll see in the next part of the tutorial that the 2nd verse is just a plain repeat with one variation, and that's it. First of all, that 1st verse one more time really slowly. is already verse number 2. One minor variation here, but we'll address that in the next part of the tutorial. As always, take your time getting this down, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.